this flange will drop by itself on its own energy. Really, if we want to be accurate and do a fine job from end to end, if one was going to repin a whole action, or even to balance a hammer in an action already quite consistent, one wants to use the best and most accurate tools available. And I find that this gram gauge does just that. We can take a look now at, I wonder if on the camera we're going to be able to see this. If I hold the angle just so, and something like that, we will see that this flange moves below 1 gram. Looks like about 1 gram. So this we'll say we need to repin this. So let's move on. So we can extract the pin now with our pin extractors, being very careful not to damage the bushing, the flange bushing. Here it comes. Keep that from falling into the midst of the action. And now we will find the replacement pin. Sizing this replacement pin is quite important. If we go too large, we can put a crack across the bird's eye and the flange will be ruined. If we go too small, it will be loose in the bird's eye and will flop around. So we need the right size. Just to try that out, I can push that in ever so, possibly just a little bit. It might be just right. I could go up a half size without endangering the wood, and I think I'll do that. It might be a little bit too loose. That may in fact be the pin size that came out of it. If you're doing a whole piano, and if it's a new piano, likely all the pins are of one size. That's better. Now I can tell because it starts well, but I can't force it through. So let's come in a little closer. What I want to show here now is that I'm taking this new pin, which I know fits in the bird's eye, and I'm now trying it in the hammer flange. And I see that on one side it's quite snug, maybe a little too snug. On the other side, quite loose. So this is a very definite benefit of using the brooches, because this brooch, which now in our close-up mode we can show, here's the brooch. There's its length, and about here, right here on the brooch, there's a roughened surface, the cutting surface, and I can take the flange, the hammer shank rather, and I can run that brooch through, knowing that it will cut equally on both sides of the bushing, on the bushings on both sides of the flange. I've cut. There's the roughened surface. Pull it back. It's now been through equally. If one side is tighter than the other, this will equal it out. And then I can pull it back, and the outer 3/4 of the length of this brooch is smoothed polished metal, and I can use that to burnish the inside of the bushing to make it nice and solid. Irons it down, it heats up a little bit and sort of irons the felt. Now I test. Still needs a little more cutting. In fact, I think I'm going to go up one size of brooch from 50 to 51. One. 5 cuts and burnish. Little tight. 5 cuts and burnish. Getting very close. 3 more cuts. And I'm have with experience. I have know that I need to cut this a little bit more, and you will too. Develop a sense of what's necessary to get your in between 3 and 4 gram tension on that flange. So I think that's going to do it. Let's try it. I think this is I want to make sure that the bird's eye matches up with the flange bushing so that I can go in the center of that bird's eye and I don't mark up the side of it or chip or split it. And I use my extractor. Now, just by moving it with my fingers, I can tell that's a very close. That'll be very close to 3 to 4 grams. So here's my tool again. Can the camera read this? Let's see. Looks like 4 grams. 3 grams. Right on 3 grams. And just for fun, we can see this other little test that I mentioned before that I've heard people use. Now I can tap the top of that and the flange rises up. Handy test, but approximate. So when I trim nice and tight, I want to make sure that this pin is snugged in, trimmed right off, and placed in the piano. And this can be done, takes a long time in the demo, but one could repin a complete set of hammer flanges in 4 hours, let's say, 4 or 5 hours. And it's very much worthwhile. It evens up the touch of the action greatly. So thanks for watching. This is Chris Davison for the CAPT tutorial series. Bye for now.